Hey, Food and Faith podcast people. It is our pleasure to say hello and give you a little update and tell you a bit about the story about why it is that we're doing this podcast thing. I'm Anna Whiffenden, and I'm so happy to have co-host of...
And I am Sam Chamberlain, and welcome to the Food and Faith Pod. Go around.
Awesome. So some of you have been asking, what is this and where did it start? And we wanted to give you a little bit of the background on the story. And Sam's going to tell you about when he entered this conversation.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a lot on the podcast about sort of being organic and entrepreneurial ministry and all these kind of things. And that's really how this podcast got started. Anna and I met each other through Wake Forest School of Divinity, the Food, Health, and Ecological Wellbeing Institute. And we were at an event, and we're sitting around a table, and Anna just says, you know what this movement needs? This movement needs a podcast. And everybody kind of looks at one another and says, yeah, that's absolutely the case. And I, in my big mouth, just blurted out, and I'm going to be the co-host. And we kind of looked at each other and said, you know what, that actually kind of makes some sense. And some other people said, you know what, you guys ought to do that. And so we've been working since December to just try to figure out what would a podcast that supports the food and faith movement look like, who would be the guests, what kind of questions would we ask, and what kind of things do we want to learn, and what kind of platform do we want to build for those who are doing amazing work around food, health, and ecology. And so we're super excited that this is just kind of all coalesced. And Anna, I'd invite you to tell them sort of what's been going on since we had those initial conversations about doing this work.
Yeah, it's been so fun to see how everyone has gotten on board, and there's been a lot of energy already. We're finding out that this podcast thing takes time to build up the resources and the equipment and the things, that we feel like it's really been coming together, and we think so many people have given to get equipment. We have these really cool microphones.
We feel really cool with the microphones.
It's like, this is a real deal. Like, we're doing a podcast. We've got all of our social media up and a website. You can find us at foodandfaithpodcast.org is the website, or follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Food and Faith Pod. And we've been just putting it out there of asking who are the people and what are the stories that want to be shared. We are both very committed to having a platform where all different kinds of stories can come together. I think sometimes in these movements we can become kind of siloed with just the people that we're used to talking to and in our own little conversations. And one of our commitments is to ask, what are the voices of stories that aren't being told, and what are the things that we need to learn from each other across disciplines, across sector, across culture. And we are just thrilled and excited, and we will tell you in another blurb in a couple of weeks about some of the guests that are coming up. But I've already learned so much from engaging this conversation, and we're excited to see how it grows.
Yeah, and I think I would say, Anna and I are both, I wouldn't even call us experts, just that we've started down the road a little bit. And what we're discovering is that there is indeed just a whole movement that exists kind of under the soil. It is germinated. In some places it's popped up, and in some places it's still kind of emerging. And so we're on this journey with everyone else, and learning from and trying to offer something back to the movement. And so part of the joy of this podcast is really discovering those stories, and just allowing folks to tell their own story, not to have it come through any kind of a filter, but just say, hey, come on and tell us what you're doing. And indeed, this story reaches into so many different areas, so many places that maybe we wouldn't have expected. And so this whole podcast really is a journey of discovery. And so we're excited to bring you along, and hopefully, and if there's stories out there that need to be told, let us know, because we're looking forward to telling them. And so speaking of stories, what we're going to be doing over the next couple of weeks with some of these videos is sort of introducing you to our story, sort of Anna's story, my story, where we've come from, what we've done, and why this matters to us. And so over the next couple of weeks, you can be looking forward to that. If there's stuff you need to know about us, go ahead and shoot us a message. That'd be cool too. But then also we're going to be sharing some of the guests we've already lined up, and it's a spectacular lineup. And we hope to continue to fill that out. out. So be in touch with us, interact with us. This is yours. We're just the hosts of it. It belongs to the entire food and faith movement. So interact, and we look forward to chatting with you over the next couple of weeks.